Welcome to April, and we're so thankful that we're here. The first quarter has ended and we're in a new month. Today on Captured by Women, we're going to have a very insightful and exciting show, and you don't want to miss this. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Time for the spin, and today we're talking about our attitude to work, especially when it comes to timekeeping, because earlier this week at Metro Mars we heard that some 50 people were sacked or dismissed. We still don't even know what the right term is, but at least they were punished in some way for reporting to work late. And we're finding out, is that the right way to go? Did they fault, or is it the manager who faulted by even punishing them for this? Because in Ghana now, it seems to be the norm. Ladies, let's get talking. I mean, when you're punished for being late, now it seems the manager is the one who's the director, is the one who's being bashed for seemingly doing what I think is the right thing. But you know our Ghanaian culture, once we've become, adapted to a situation, then we feel, oh, you can walk in anytime, it's fine. So far as you get something done in the day, you get away. But I mean, over time, is this the way Ghana has to progress?
I think, Nana, our appreciation of time in this country is very interesting. We need to have a serious conversation. I mean,
appalling.
I mean, appalling is possibly an understatement.
Yeah.
You have meetings with people, you set a time, and then they're 1 hour late, and it's okay.
Yeah.
And then they graduate.
They
waltz in, that's the word. And oh, there was traffic or the rain or something. And it's unacceptable in other places, but it's okay. And we laugh and joke about it. It's not a funny thing anymore. And it's never really been funny. Because if we begin to quantify the time that we are wasting by being late. When I joined media, one of the things I've come to appreciate is the cost of time.
A second.
I mean, per second. 60 seconds of airtime of advertising, depending on where you're advertising, can cost you, and it's 60 seconds. I mean, it's tick, 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 it's gone. And you never get time back. So it's, the consequence of being late to work, I think it hasn't been entrenched well enough. For it's just a behavior, it's a lifestyle. Apart from even getting to work late, which is endemic in a lot of places, there's also the thing of people get to work and then they're supposed to be at work at 8 o'clock. So they get in before 8 and then they go and buy food for breakfast. They go and do breakfast for another hour. And they're not working till possibly about 10. It's just the whole thing about how our work ethic is.
Work ethic,
I
work
mean,
culture.
The attitude of, oh, so there's nothing at stake. Let me just do it. We can't succeed as a nation.
We can't about everything.
We can't succeed as a nation. I mean, no nation has developed with this type of attitude, because really hard work pays, and hard work is putting in the time. So the consequence of, and I really am totally for, when someone has or goes against the policy of a company, there must be consequence.
Definitely.
And that's where we have a problem as well. Because usually when you want to enforce the consequence, then people start begging.
And they put a face to it.
Human face. Yes, but there should be a human face. And the human face is, let's know what the policy is. Explain the policy to everybody. Let's all agree that this is how we want to proceed. Because if we know that work starts at 8, why does work start at 8? How many hours of productive work can we put into this day to achieve the targets of where we are going? Once we agree, we all know that that's our system, then nobody should just decide that, oh, you know what, today I have a hangover from Easter.
So
I don't want to come to work.
And
then they show up at 10 o'clock. And
it's
then,
not right.
You know, it's just unacceptable.
But the other side also is, how did we get here? You know, we've talked about it. I think the president even mentioned it, this year, and how did we get here? I feel that it stems out of people not having a very serious personal value system. So, for example, in some organizations, whether in the public sector or in the private sector, there must be a policy in place to check people. But if as individuals we have, very good value systems, you don't need a company policy, a company procedure to force you to do what you must do. For some people, even when their bosses are off work, it's like a holiday period for them.
And then if you decide to be very attentive, I mean,
it's like you're the odd one out.
And they'll call you all sorts of names.
That's why I'm happy you mentioned it. How did we get here? It's a rewarding system. why won't you praise someone who gets to work on time consistently and then punish the person who doesn't? But here we are, we put all of you together and work is done. So really, we don't care who came early and who came late. But if you were acknowledging someone who comes consistently, giving them maybe a pay raise or a bonus, something people that's tangible enough for them, then everyone sees it's an attitude that should be followed and will inculcate it. Of course, because the personal one has not even been imbibed in the first place. We've missed that. Let's say we did miss that. But is there another step we can put, you know, some practice to? And I think that comes to the work ethics. I mean, how on earth would you think it's okay to waltz in at 9, not even explain yourself for some people, and just get back to their seat and everything carries on as usual? Like, I mean, I'm here. Anyway, at the end of the day, if we're marking whether I came today, I did. And so be happy. Just take it as it is. But it's wrong because it's the number of hours spent, productivity.
And
that's why there's a time you start and a time
you tolerated it.
And you know, I've been having lots of conversations with entrepreneurs, and one of the biggest issues is how frustrated business owners are with this attitude of, I'm doing you a favor. You're paying them, and the attitude is, oh, I'm doing you a favor by being here.
You're lucky I came.
You're lucky I showed up.
It's unacceptable.
And I tell people
and the thing is,
it's a partnership. An employer and an employer is a partnership, and it has to be mutually beneficial. It can't be parasitic.
I think it's because we've tolerated. Because see, these same people who get late for work, when they work in certain organizations, when you change their work environment, or let's say, if they travel to work in certain jurisdictions, the attitudes change.
They fall into line.
So it's because there are systems there, one, that are in place to ensure compliance, and the environment would not tolerate tardiness. You cannot be tardy, you know. So it's like a personal check, you know. So I think one is systems that don't work. Organizations don't enforce systems enough. And probably don't punish enough, and also because the environment allows it, and then it breeds and becomes an organizational culture. So it becomes what everybody, that's the way we do things here.
And I mean, the copy and paste thing kind of attitude Ghanaians have to is another thing. Why would you have a clocking system or say an attendance book that just sits there? For months, no HR person or any manager or director looks in the book until a day when he decides that, okay, I'm going to enforce the law, and then you can pick the book and scan through, and just because maybe on a particular day I don't show up, really, and maybe that's the only day I don't show up, but I'll be punished for it because on that day I picked the book, your name was not in. Really, that doesn't work. If that attendance book is there, then I'm supposing someone should check at the end of every day, have a register, or every month there should be a way it's checked. You know that, okay, we're looking out for this, we're looking out for that, and so anyone who falls below a certain cutoff, you go punished. If you don't, then you're rewarded. Otherwise, then really, what's the point of having these books and these clocking in? It's a waste of money then.
Really, it's the monitoring. What doesn't get checked doesn't get done.
That is it.
And if people feel that nobody notices, if I waltz in at 10 o'clock and I leave at 4, nobody's going to say anything. They would obviously do what they want. And when you talk about other jurisdictions, it's also the fact that people are monitoring. So for instance, in some jurisdictions, you'll be paid by the number of hours
you come,
not when you show. You can't show up and work for 5 hours and expect to be paid for 8 hours. So you'll be paid by the number of hours.
20 days in a month.
Exactly. And be paid for
the
more.
whole month. Yes, it doesn't work.
So we may need to consider some of those things. But I really feel that you mentioned that we need to self-regulate. Because it can be very tiring for managers to have to micromanage people and say, okay, what time
adults
are you
for that
matter. It's just ridiculous.
It's totally ridiculous.
No, that's like another layer of.
So I keep telling my colleagues that, okay, if we say a meeting is at 9, it means we want to start at 9. We're not walking in at 9. We're starting at 9. So let's do 5 minutes at a time. We're all coming in, we're hello, hi, and everything. And at 9 o'clock we're starting, so we can hurry up and finish and continue the things. But it's the general cultural thing of how we appreciate it. I think we should stop joking about it.
You know, it's not.
We should just stop joking about our lateness, Ghana man time, and it's becoming such a dry joke.
And the part that even kills me is when you ask someone, okay, so what time are you going to show up? Oh, 3:34.
That means 5
That's
o'clock.
not a time. That is a range. But really, you should be, you know, immediately you say something like that to me, I know you're not time conscious. You're not going to stick to time. Because at least I'm grateful to people who I've trained and of course my parents. When my father says I'm leaving the house at 4, Petra, trust me, then if by 3:59 you are nowhere near, I mean, he's gone. By 3, like his key is in his ignition, he's ready to leave. And it made me appreciate what it means for time. Like you said, in the media, you can't waste a second. And when you realize how precious those times are because you're paying for it, then you go out and you put even a different light to it. That time is really precious. You can't get it back. But it's all because of that attitude where they feel you're doing someone a favor. But if you don't work productively and your employer doesn't get the money, you're not going to be paid the amount you have to be paid, or you're not going to get the bonuses that would have come with it if you put in extra hours. And so let's all come together. It's not like you're doing anyone a favor. You do yourself a favor by doing that, because then you also train a generation who's going to learn to be time conscious, and then the ripple effect, you benefit from it. So I mean, all that counts.
Well, on this note, we're reminded that we have to stick within our time for our show as well. So we'll wrap up, and we hope that all of us would be time conscious, because time is money, and for every single minute that we spend or we waste, we are wasting our lives. So we need to be mindful of the fact that we are investing our lives in everything that we do, and let's just pay attention to time. And at work, let's work whilst we're at work. Thank you. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Welcome back from the break. So on Big Bang today, we are discussing the GRA's enforcement of the tax identification number. We know this started from the 1st of April. There has been some talk about it, and to help us discuss it further, to know what it's all about, why it's important, and why eligible people need to register, we have been joined in the studio today by Madame Valerie Ennison, who is the Deputy Commissioner in charge of e-government projects at the Ghana Revenue Authority. Thank you very much, ma'am. Welcome to Captured by Women. Okay, so as I early on mentioned, we know that the GRA has started enforcing the tax identification number. What is it all about, and why the enforcement at this time? Why at this time?
Right, the tax identity, the TIN, as they call it, is a tax identification number. It's actually an account. It's an account number that we use on the system at GRA. And it uniquely identifies the taxpayer, so that when you come to pay your taxes, we can identify you on the system and pay your tax against that number. That is what it is. So just like you have accounts in the banks, when you go, they pay your money against your account number. That's what it is for GRA. Yeah.
So until the TIN came into being, what would you say then for any individual who was paying a tax? Where does that money go into, or what account then was it going into? Any identifiable, traceable person it goes to?
Yes, we've always had numbers, you know, file numbers or account numbers. We have a new system now that we're using, and that enforces us to use the TIN as the identifier. Right. So to use that system, we need taxpayers to acquire that TIN so that they can be identified on the system.
Okay. So for every single individual who pays taxes, one of the things that the TIN will want to do is be able to identify that you're a taxpayer, track your tax and all of that. So then I'll be thinking, what happens to large organizations? Because if, for instance, you have 250 staff, would the organization have to, if the individuals are paying taxes as part of their salaries, have to have their TIN with them? What do companies have to do?
Yes, they do. Each employee has to have a TIN. What we are planning to do with the really big organizations like Controller that pays government staff is to have an arrangement with them and see how they process, they onboard their employees. If we are satisfied that they can uniquely identify the staff, then we're going to ask them to just give us that data, and then the system will produce the TIN for them. It would be a lot of, it will save them and us a lot of effort in, you know, singly keying in employee data. So that's something that we are going to arrange with some big institutions.
You mentioned something very important to me, and something very crucial, because people have been of the thought that maybe if we waited for the national identification cards to be rolled out, then maybe instead of trying to identify individuals to come, because you have the data, immediately you're going to process it, you just add a number that becomes your TIN. Do you think this would have been prudent?
Yes, definitely. I mean, the national identification number is part of the our system that we are using. We depend very much on it, and it uses the national ID as well. So we would have loved for it to have come before, and it would have saved us quite a lot of the effort that we are putting in. But because it's not here, we have to have a way of identifying our taxpayers, and therefore we are using other forms of national ID, like the driver's license and the voter's ID. But as soon as the national ID is on board, that is what will be the de facto way of identifying.
So who is supposed to have a TIN? Who is qualified to have a TIN? If there's anything, are there eligible people, criteria, who should have a TIN?
Anybody who pays tax should have a TIN.
Okay, so my auntie who sells in the market, my uncle who has a mechanic shop, should they?
If they are all doing things that they have to pay tax for, they are earning income, then they have to have a TIN.
And what's the process? If somebody wants to go get a TIN number, where do they go? How do they get started?
We have our offices, the DTRD offices across the country, and you just present yourself there. You fill in a form, and the form will be vetted to make sure that the details are correct and everything is correct. And then you come with your ID, your national ID. So either a national identification, or a driver's license, or a passport, or a voter's ID. So that's scanned into the system. The data is captured and the TIN is generated
and
for if free. The ID is validated. Yes, it's free. It's completely free, and nobody should ever give any money to get the tax identification number. It's always free.
Possible reasons why people would maybe pay or be required to pay is the issue of middle people, so middlemen and women. And I think it's one of the issues of people not being able to fill out forms, or not liking to fill out forms, or that sometimes our systems make us fill out too many forms. How flexible or how convenient is this whole process? Because the thought of just walking into a government organization and filling out a form is scary to a lot of people. Like, oh, I don't want to go through that, all that process. Is there a one pager? Is it a 10-page document? What type of information?
It's a 2-page document, and you get a lot of help from our staff. They are there to help, to assist people to fill in, and they vet and they walk it through with you. So it's very easy to do. Like I said, we do offer a lot of assistance for that, so there shouldn't be any worry about completing the forms.
So what's the average time frame? Like, if you apply today, when do you expect to have your number? So is it 2 days, 1 week?
Yes, it ranges. If you have a long queue there, and the data has to be captured into the system. So if there's a queue, it can take up to 2 days to get it. But if you just enter and there's nobody there, 10 minutes you can even get. That is if your ID is validated and there's no problem with your details. Within 10 minutes you can get a national.
What are the benefits of having a TIN for the individual and for Ghana as a whole?
Right. For the individual, you, for instance, as an employee, if you have a TIN, further down the line, you will be able to check on online how much your employee has paid into as PAYE for you. So you get to be in know as to what is being paid. For Ghana as a whole, I think that broadening the tax net is one major aspect, because there are a lot of people who have do businesses with other government agencies, like they register for land, they have contracts with governments, and some of these we don't know about. So this is a way of capturing them all into the tax net, and it benefits us all in the end.
I'm just looking at people who probably employ themselves, self-employed as we would say, and for some reason or another they obtain a TIN, but in a particular month or two they're not able to get any income. What really happens from the GRA's point of view? Is there a penalty? Is there anything after you've gotten the TIN?
Well, yes. When you get the tin, then we have to follow up and register you for a tax type.
Okay.
Yeah, so whatever tax that you are paying, so that if it's a personal income tax or company tax and so on. So if we register for you for a tax, some of those tax types are periodic, and therefore if you don't pay, they will automatically generate a penalty. So for those ones, we register you, you need to start paying your taxes, otherwise the penalties will
So wouldn't you think that may be a reason, that may be one particular thing that may dissuade people from getting onto the tin? Because we know that in Ghana, some sources of income are not constant, they're not regular, and so there may be lapses. And why then should I come make you know what I'm getting as and when, and also punish me for it?
No, but if you're running a business as a private person, and in a particular month you don't have revenue, you don't file. There's nothing
yes,
to
you
pay.
can file, but you file nil.
Yes,
there's nothing to
revenue.
pay. So you need to file, and I think we've been having various programs this week to explain that you do need to file your taxes, and that's something that we are encouraging everybody to do. It should be a good habit within Ghana.
It's actually a responsibility we need to.
It's a big responsibility.
There's the side of people, so benefits. Nana asked about what's the benefit to the individual. Are there any tax rebates that people can get at the end of the year by paying their taxes consistently? Are there any incentives for goods tax?
Yes,
compliance for individuals. I know companies get things, as in they can get some reductions or something. What happens to individuals?
Well, individuals, you do have your regular, if you're married, you get some reliefs, or if you have children, you have reliefs. But those are the things, and you have to pay your taxes and file your returns.
Nobody tells us about the relief. Because I think abroad it's very common. You hear people saying they're filing their taxes and they're going to get a check, or they get tax returns, but nobody
it's all in our sensitization. We do sensitize about it, so maybe we have to do a bit more.
Okay.
Yes,
so what? I mean, we've talked about the purpose for the regulation, which is to broaden the tax net and all that. If anybody wants further information, what do they do? Who do they call? Where do they go to?
Well, we have the website, the GRA website, which is gra.gov.gh. And it has a lot
again so that people can...
Yes, gra.gov.gh.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And that has a lot of information. It does have the online facility. I don't know if we talked about that. There's the online facility that you can go, and at the moment you can use the national ID and driver's license to obtain your TIN online. You can, yes. And we'll be bringing up, we'll be bringing up the electoral, the voters ID as well. But currently, if you go on gra.gov.gh on the online services, there is a functionality for you to apply for your TIN.
Wow, okay.
Yes, and that's something that we'll be promoting as we go on a lot more. It will make it easier for us if more people go online and register. But for now, what we are saying is that before you go to DVLA or the Lands Commission or the Passport Office, make sure that you go to a GRA office and obtain the TIN before you go to those offices, so you are not sent back to the GRA office. Make that the start of your process. Yes.
So what about if you've registered in the past and you don't know your number, or you've lost, you just lost track? Is there any way of retrieving it?
Yes, we have a validation routine, a verification routine that we are sending to these institutions that are requiring TIN. So when you get there, they'll check to see whether you have the TIN before they'll process it.
So the policy is one person, one TIN?
Yes.
Right.
For life?
Yes. It's a unique identification number. We don't want duplications in there, because if we have 2, 3 ACMs in there, which one are we crediting the TIN to? So we do whatever we can to make sure that the TIN number is unique, so that we credit the correct person.
Okay, so if I've registered in the past and I walk in now because I don't remember my number, is there any mechanism by which the system will, or the official will let me know that you already have a number?
Yes, they will check with your name.
Details.
So I can walk in and get my number?
Yes, you can.
That's good.
Okay, so for the uneducated, I mean, when this started on April 1st, there's been feedback here and there that the awareness hasn't been enough. People don't know about it. Some of the institutions who are supposed to enforce it, like the banks and other institutions, are themselves not prepared, you know, to start the implementation. So I don't know what you have to say about that in terms of the awareness and the preparedness of the other institutions to actually help in the enforcement.
Yeah. I think, like I said, you know, the message is come to the GRA office and get your tin before you go to any of these offices. There are some big ones like the DVLA, which we've engaged with, that will have a presence there. Okay. You know, we'll start to have a presence there and start processing the tin for them. And then the passport office too, we are thinking of going there. So there are some key ones that we will make a presence, but the big message is that get the tin first and then go to these offices to get your
But oftentimes when these programs are taking off, it seems to be centered in the cities. But is this tin issue far-reaching? That's the length and breadth of Ghana. Or is we're starting piloting, as it were, piloting in Accra, see if it works, and then we move along.
Well, it cuts across. It's happening across the country. So everybody, all the DVLA offices across Ghana will have to enforce the tin and so on. So it cuts across the country.
Okay. All right. Right. So I know that. So is there any key things you want to highlight? I'm sure, because it's still a bit up in the air for a lot of people. Especially for when we talk about tax, people are already, scared, so as you said, it's a free service.
It is a free service. Don't pay anything for that service. If you can't go to the DTRD or GRA office and get your tin, and before you start processing with either DVLA or passport office, and also we are building up our the online. It's there. You can use driver's license or national ID, and very soon we'll have the voters ID also up.
So what if you go to these institutions and they don't ask you for it? Like you are DVLA, you are the bank, and you're going to open
a good citizen and say,
so what if you're processing and they don't solicit it? Do you offer? Do you ask? Do you probe?
As a responsible citizen, you should say that this is my tin. Oh, I don't have it.
Or why are you not asking me for my tin?
Exactly.
Yes,
exactly. So
hopefully you'll be told you're being too no.
Hopefully you won't.
Okay, all right. Okay, so in wrapping up, what would you like to leave us with? What would you like to leave our viewers with?
Yes. I think the tin is a simple process. It's something that, as a nation, we should all gather around and get it done, so that, as I say, it broadens the tax net. It brings in more money for the country. Our Commissioner General has made it a point to say that, he wants to meet his target, and this is one of the things that he's using to do that. So everybody should come on board and comply. And it's free.
Yes,
so
free.
Don't pay anything for the tin. And come to our offices. We are ready and willing to serve and make you get your tin.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. On that note, we'll wrap up this segment. As you heard, Madam Valerie Ennison, getting your tin is free. You don't have to pay anything. So walk into any GRA office, get registered, get your tin before you access any of the services that you need. Thank you very much for watching. We'll wrap it up on the Big Bank. We'll be right back. Please stick and stay.
On Career Woman for today, we have a very lovely lady who has a very lovely name. Chinenyewa Okoro Onu. Did I get it right?
Hallelujah.
Who happens to be a very interesting person. And she's using waste to create very lovely art pieces. She actually believes that creativity is in everything that she sees around her, and so nothing is wasted. And we're going to be talking to her about her transition from a regular HR job to a very interesting role in trying to make good things out of what we would think are wasted material. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
So first of all, I'm going to ask, what does your name mean?
My name, the full name is Chukuni Nyuma, so it means God gives children. So God blesses you with kids, with whatever.
And
so
God blessed your parents, a very interesting
child,
person.
yeah. I bet he did.
Sure. Yes, he did. So tell us about what you do and how you started, how everything began.
That's a long story. Where do I start
from the beginning?
You sure we have time?
Summarize it.
Of course. Well, so this started a couple of years ago. But then I'll tell you a little story. When I was a child, right, and we're from this neighborhood where it always rains, and then it will flood, and my siblings and I will go and play inside the water. And when we come out, our grandparents will flog the living daylight out of us. You know, we thought it was normal. We will float, you know, plastics on it, and you know, it was so cool.
I'm interested in finding out one thing. Yes, you talk about having, you know, this artistic background or passion for art and sculpting and all that. But I feel you had to start from somewhere, from having seen someone with that inspiration or a role model before you may want to go into that particular field, because you need to know whether it's going to be successful, which is what, as a human being, everybody does. You want your foot to be on a good ground before you step into it. So for you, what did you see or what inspired you to want to start this particular way?
Should I be honest?
Yes.
Nothing.
Right. You didn't have anyone you looked up to?
No.
So where did this imagination come from?
I didn't see
I think it was just the,
I think
it's an inner thing.
It was just something we were doing in school, and I decided to just dig on.
Okay.
And trust me, the internet has the biggest resources you can ever think of.
Okay.
And currently, I don't have any. I've been looking for somebody that's okay, I'm replicating. You know, when they say, who are your role models in this particular field? I'm like, okay, you mentioned these. I don't have any.
Yeah.
So you
started your own journey.
That's my own journey. That's what I think. Okay. That's what I know, because I'm still looking forward to, okay, say somebody in Africa or somebody in the world doing this. You know. No, there are people doing it, but I haven't seen one person who is focused, say you're doing a recycled art. When somebody asks me, okay, who are you? I'm like, I'm a social environmentalist. Yeah. That's what my drive is. So I'm looking at innovation and creativity in solving this problem.
Okay. So we've looked at, you brought some of the pieces along with you.
Yeah.
Walk us through the process. I mean, I can imagine it's quite a long process to get it to look like this. So where do you start from and how do you arrive here? And you can show us and walk us through the pieces as well.
Okay, well, there's a lot of behind the scenes to this.
I see toothpaste.
Of course, there are toothpaste, there are jewelries, there are medicine curves, these are papers, these are key parts, old earrings.
So how do you waste to you?
Yeah.
So we have a collection process. We started basically as educating people on waste separation, because of course you can't upcycle if it's not properly kept. And one of the biggest problems we have in Africa regarding recycling is because we don't sort our waste. Imagine all of it jumbled up in a gutter, and you're telling a creative mind, oh, think of how creative. Tell you no, because the hours he or she is going to spend in disinfecting is like a whole stress. So we started with the education process, which is educating people on waste separation. We work with homes, we work with schools, they separate the waste, they put it differently, we go and collect them, and then we sort. Now, for every art species, if you look at it, has different dimensions to it. There are some that have computer products in it, there are some
like
that
this
have,
one right here.
That one that has like keyboard, and then the round things are paper.
The black?
The black ones.
Proposed
ones are all papers. And then there are other ones that you find has holistic plastic bottles. We have the ones that have fabrics, you know, hairs, everything. Anything you can think of, we can work with it. Just name it.
Sounds very interesting.
So just name it. Just name it. So this is it. It doesn't have any complication. You just need to think about it. Sometimes we don't even have any inspiration behind it. Once we pick the pencil, ask her, what do we do? Tizzy, what are we doing? We just
who's the we?
So we have a team. We're a team of 6. We have carpenters, we have artists, we have volunteers, people who just come help us pick up plastic, people who just come say, we want to learn, can you teach us? Of course, our doors are always open. In 2017, when I decided to do it full-time, I launched one of Africa's first environmental hub. So basically, you talk about entrepreneurship hub, tech hub, where people come up with innovative ideas in that particular field. But when you talk about environmental issues, you don't hear anything like that. So I was like, okay, so why don't I come up with something where people with creative ideas, and I'm not talking about just me, in Ghana, there are a lot of young people now doing stuff with waste, tire, name it. Why? And one of the biggest challenges they have is storage. Where can they work from? Where can they attend that meeting? How can they train their colleagues and all of this thing? Like, you know what, our doors are open. Come on. You know, you can work from here, we can train you, give you the entrepreneurial skill, because it's one thing to know how to be creative and another thing to sell your product. Because if you don't end up producing producing.
What were you doing before? You said you're in HR.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I'm thinking HR, well,
HR
but it's just like a very big disconnect from the person I'm talking to now. Because you're so all bubbly and commercially minded, and there's this business acumen about you, because I know all of these things are good, but I know you're thinking about the business side of it. So
definitely,
because you'll be thinking of how is this going to sustain itself, and I don't see that it's just for the good of it. So how is this? How do you manage the business side of it?
Every business have a revenue stream. Believe you me, whether or not they say, oh, it's just for social impact, it's just to help people.
God, somebody finally said that. No, but you know, a lot of social entrepreneurs
make it look as if it's all
for the good of society.
They're lying to themselves, because tell you what, if you are supposed to feed 100 kids today and you are hungry, how do you feed them?
Yeah.
You need to feed yourself well to feed others.
Yes.
So it's not true.
Yeah, you need to be self-sustaining.
You need to be self-sustaining too. So the reason why I had to go get a job is because I need to sustain this, because it needs to run forever for people to get it. Even till tomorrow, you go to even a corporate world of society, like, you know what, I want to train your people on waste separation. I want to tell you what you could do with the waste generated in your own organization. They will still tell you they don't see the need for it. Yes. So you need to just have to be spot on and thinking, you know what, let's do this. So this is why we opened the hub, where people can come, they register, they pay a little money, because of course the facilities need to be self-sustained. So we train them there. And then we also have exhibitions where people come exhibit. We exhibit as well. We auction, we sell. We have training programs. Just, I mean, of course, you can see my t-shirt. We have the Waste or Create Africa Recycle Symposium coming up in September. But we're having stakeholders meetings. We had Ghana for 23rd of March. We had Nigeria 28th of March. And we're having Senegal. We have Rwanda, South Africa,
really
then in Ghana. So if you look at social problem, the problem we have as young social entrepreneurs is we're just looking at, oh, we are doing good, we are doing good. But what are you? How do you look at yourself in the mirror and you're able to deal with the fact that you go to bed hungry and you're doing good? You need to look at the business aspect.
Jenny, I'm interested in finding out, you talk about education, and so I want the feedback. When you talk or educate people about waste, what kind of feedback do you get? Are they excited about it, or do they just feel it's one of those usual talks?
They're super excited. Those who have given us their platform to educate people on. You know, we keep getting calls. Hey, Chichi, there's this plastic. There's somebody who will tell you, I have to carry my plastic from wherever I home because I knew you were going to come for it. So, you know, this kind of thing just motivates me. I'm like, okay, yes, at least you're thinking right.
So I'm sure there are lots of young people out there who are wondering where to get your art pieces from. That's one thing.
And
how much approximately will it cost, how to get it, and how to get, if they want to do the waste separation, who picks it up?
So we're social media, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Waste or Crate. Twitter, you can also tweet at us. Our email, hello@novsaic.com, novsaic.com. And you can also call any of the numbers.
You can mention it.
The commission.
You don't have it.
I don't have it offhand.
You can
everyone goes online.
Everyone goes online. And once you Google novsaic.com, you will find every information. And we are at number 8 Palace Street, opposite Mothers in North Kaneshi, Accra. Yes, that's where the hub is.
And all of the pieces are available.
Yes, they're available. And we also make custom-made portraits. So if you have a design, you want to do your company logo, you're thinking about anything and everything, just let us know.
What's the hardest piece you've ever done?
Hardest piece I've ever done was the face of J.J. Rollins.
Yes. Why was that hard?
Because, you know, he's a very interesting man. His facial hairs and all of it, you need to get the contouring. It needs to look like him. Not so like, it looks like, no, it's him, not it looks like him.
And he is a very interesting person. And on that very interesting note, thank you very much for joining us. I mean, it's been a very interesting interaction. I'm so awed by the things that you're doing, and we wish you all the best.
Yes,
blazing those trails, all the very best. Well, viewers, we'll take a quick break at this point, and we'll come back with the rest of the show.
Welcome back. So on the lifestyle segment, we're celebrating 2 iconic women for who they are and the roles they played in the lives of many people when they lived. We are talking about Maya Angelou and Winnie Mandela. Of course, we know the various roles they played, but I want to delve more into their lives so you know about them some more. Let's see this. So that indeed was interesting pieces from them. We hope we as women have picked something from it. And everyone out there, male, female, child, adult, I'm sure you've learned a thing or two. We'll take a break. We'll be back with more here on Captured by Women. Well, viewers, this is where the cookie crumbles here on Captured by Women. Of course, I'm sure today you've enjoyed the show where we started off talking about our attitude to work, specifically civil servants. But of course, you and I also have a role to play because we're all Ghanaians and we want to see Ghana working. And then we spoke about the TIN, tax identification number, and each and every one of us needs to have one if you're paying tax, because it will help broaden the tax net and also let you know and benefit from it. And then we also spoke to a beautiful lady who's doing great things by changing trash into wealth. And then finally, we had a piece on Maya Angelou and Winnie Mandela. So that's all for you today, but we hope you join us same time next week. From us here, myself, Petra, and Rosemond, it's goodbye and have a lovely weekend.